Welcome. The Best Practice Briefs is a partnership initiative of the South Dakota Foundation for Medical Care and the Great Plains Quality Innovation Network. My name is Stacy Frenberg, and I have the pleasure of working for SDFMC and serving as the South Dakota Community Coalition Lead for the Great Plains QUIN. Before we begin, there's a few housekeeping items to review. Today's session is being recorded, and it will be posted at sdfmc.org on the Best Practice Briefs page. All lines will be muted throughout the presentation. Please add any comments or questions to the chat, and they'll be addressed at the end of the presentation. Everyone knows bad habits are hard to break, and addiction is even more difficult. New vaping products have caused a major setback in the fight against tobacco and nicotine, especially among South Dakota's youth. Today's session focuses on taking control of tobacco in South Dakota. Smoking is still the leading cause of preventable and premature death. The South Dakota Tobacco Control Program focuses on prevention, cessation, and education to reduce the impact of tobacco use. Specialized programs are used to reach South Dakota populations facing a higher proportion of tobacco-related challenges. With Be Free South Dakota as a foundation, community and healthcare facilities have access to data, resources, and a collection of brands to reduce tobacco and nicotine use and tobacco-related disease. Sierra Phelps is from the Tobacco Control Program, and she's going to share with us today. Sierra, I'm going to go ahead and allow you to share your screen.
All right, thank you. Why is my deal not sharing now? Hold on, having a little issue getting my deal to pop up here now.
Sure. I have your PowerPoint here too. If you, it was working earlier, so.
I know, working earlier, and of course there's always technical difficulties when. There we go, now it's wanting to. All right. Is that good now?
Looks good, thanks.
All right. Hi, everybody. I am Sierra Phelps. I am with the Tobacco Control Program. I am the director of it, and I've been in this position for about 2 years. So getting a good grasp and knowledge on our control program. So the South Dakota Department of Health's Tobacco Control Program promotes prevention, cessation, and education, and aims to reduce tobacco use rates and tobacco-related disease in South Dakota. The Center for Disease Control Office on Smoking and Health created the National and State Tobacco Control Program in 1999 to encourage coordinated national efforts to reduce tobacco-related diseases and deaths. The program provides funding and technical support to state and territorial health departments. So this also includes the 50 states, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and Guam. According to CDC, cigarette smoking is still the leading cause of preventable and premature death. 1,300 South Dakota adults die every year from smoking, and 21,000 South Dakota kids under 18 alive today will die prematurely from smoking. As cigarette use declines, the next generation of tobacco users are recruited with deceptive products like e-cigarettes. According to the U.S. Surgeon General, e-cigarette use among youth has hit epidemic levels. Because most regular tobacco use starts during adolescence, these products put South Dakota youth at risk for a lifetime of nicotine addiction. In addition to health consequences, South Dakota's economy and specific populations also suffer due to tobacco use. Every year, South Dakota spends $373 million in healthcare costs, and they lose $282.5 million in productivity directly caused by smoking. Residents, state, and federal tax burdens from smoking cause government expenditures equal to $790 per household every year. Medicaid costs caused by smoking in South Dakota equal $70.2 million every single year. Cardiovascular and lung disease and cancer, all caused by commercial tobacco use, are leading causes of death among Americans. Smokers are 30 to 40% more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, and American Indians have the highest rate of kidney failure caused by diabetes. Diabetes can also lead to heart disease, poor blood flow in feet, legs, and blindness and nerve damage. Commercial tobacco use is the single largest preventable cause of death and disease. The tobacco industry is spending millions to get our young people addicted to their products. South Dakota focuses on 5 priority populations within our state that big tobacco companies target. I'm going to talk about each one in a little more detail so you can understand how tobacco companies target them. Youth and young adults. Tobacco use and exposure to nicotine in any form are dangerous for kids under 18 years old. While many young people are aware of the negative health effects, they often underestimate the addictive power of tobacco products. Because brain development continues until the age of 25, youth are especially at risk for developing an addiction that can be a very difficult habit to kick and can result in weakened or even deadly consequences later in life. Research and surveys such as our Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance Survey were developed to monitor health behaviors that contribute to the leading causes of death, disability, and social problems among youth in the United States. This research plays a critical role in monitoring progress towards healthy goals, identifying emerging risk factors, and developing preventative strategies. The statistics listed here are based on current findings. While the YRBS focuses on high school students, the state of South Dakota also conducts the YTS, which is the Youth Tobacco Survey, that collects data from middle school age children. In the US, nearly 9 out of 10 cigarette smokers first tried smoking by the age of 18, and almost all first tried smoking by the age of 26. Approximately 300 people became daily cigarette smokers in South Dakota per year. E-cigarettes has become an epidemic in South Dakota. This is a new big trend from big tobacco companies. E-cigarettes are most commonly used form of nicotine among youth in the United States. In 2019, 23.6% of high school students in the US currently used e-cigarettes versus 20.8% in 2018. In 2019, 23.9% of South Dakota high school students used e-cigarettes within the past 30 days. In 2019, nearly 1 in 6 middle school students reported trying an e-cigarette. E-cigarette use has climbed in popularity with middle schoolers, rising from 2% in 2011 to 16% in 2019. While many would think that if e-cigarette usage is on the rise, then other tobacco would be decreasing, but cigarette usage is also increasing. In 2019, 12% of South Dakota high school students were current smokers, an increase from 10.1% in 2015. In 2019, 3.5% of South Dakota middle school students were current smokers, an increase from 2.9% in 2017. Chewing tobacco is used nearly double the national level in South Dakota. In 2019, 7.1% of South Dakota high school students reported using chewing tobacco in the last 30 days versus 3.8% of high school students in the US. Multiple factors contribute to youth being at higher risk for tobacco use and nicotine addiction. There is a strong relationship between tobacco use and depression, anxiety, and stress. Teens who struggle with low self-image or self-esteem are more likely to experiment with tobacco products. Teens may experience positive outcomes from tobacco use, such as being able to better cope with stress or control weight. And the media normalizes this tobacco use. When teens see tobacco products in advertising, movies, and social environments, they're more likely to view tobacco as a normal thing. The tobacco industry targets youth in many different ways. Nationally, e-cigarette advertising have increased from $12 million in 2011 to $110 million in 2018. This does not include social media or sponsored events. In 2016, 20.5 million middle school students and high school students in the US were exposed to e-cigarette advertisements from at least one source. About 1/3 of teenage experimentation with smoking can be directly attributed to tobacco advertising and promotional activities in retail environments. Teens underestimate tobacco use and addiction. defiance, being rebellion, risk, and taking are normal throughout the adolescent ages. So tobacco becomes normal to them. Teens may think tobacco is not as dangerous as other behaviors like drinking or drug abuse. Tobacco products can be easy to access and inexpensive. Teens are more sensitive to nicotine and can become dependent on it sooner than adults. Teens are also less likely to take part in a tobacco cessation program and to receive advice from their healthcare providers to quit. Genetic factors can also make it more difficult for some people to quit smoking once they have started. Teens with lower levels of academic achievement are at higher risk for tobacco, and teens who are more prone to aggressive behavior, such as fighting or carrying weapons, are more likely to experiment with tobacco products. South Dakota does have services for our youth. You'll learn more about the Quit Line next week, but we do offer cessation products and NRT for anyone ages 13 and older to help youth and young adults. Our next population is the Native American population. For many young adults, so for Native Americans, we have specific brands towards them, and I will talk about theirs in a little bit here. But commercial tobacco is almost double in our Native American communities compared to the average statewide rate. Nearly half of the Lakota people in South Dakota use commercial tobacco, which is more than double the rates of every other population. Tribes throughout North America use traditional tobacco for spiritual, ceremonial, and medicinal purposes. Traditional tobacco among the Northern Plains tribes is not the same as commercial cigarettes, chew, or e-cigarettes. South Dakota tribes use chanchasha, which comes from the red willow bark. There is nothing traditional or sacred about commercial tobacco. 42.3% of American Indians adults in South Dakota smoke cigarettes. That's more than 2 times the rate of any other adult population. In 2019, 11.6% of South Dakota American Indian middle school students report current use of any type of tobacco products compared to 0.7% of white population. Low socioeconomic status, high poverty rate, and lower education attainment creates stress for Native Americans. The tobacco industry promotes its product as a quick way to relieve this tension and this stress. Exposure to tobacco products from an early age increases the risk of Native Americans to use. American Indians are more likely to expose to secondhand smoke in homes, cars, and businesses on a daily basis from a very early age. American Indians start using tobacco products at an earlier age than the general population. Tobacco companies exploit tribal lands. Tobacco companies take advantage of higher rates of poverty on these reservations. They use coupons, giveaways, gaming promotions, charitable contributions, and sponsorships to influence these tribal communities. A tribe's sovereign status exempts them from the South Dakota's smoke-free laws. Tobacco companies build alliances with tribal leaders to help improve their corporate image and defeat tobacco control policies. In February of 2019, Juul representatives approached the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe in an attempt to sell a cessation program to get smokers to switch from cigarettes to Juul, essentially to trade one nicotine addiction for another. Kudos to the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe for standing up for their people and saying no. American Indians metabolize nicotine faster than other ethnic groups, resulting in a higher level of dependence and more difficulty quitting. Regular exposure to other smoking or use of commercial tobacco products is a common reason for failed attempts within the Native American community. Our pregnant and postpartum women are another priority population that we serve. Pregnant women share the same bloodstream with their baby, so when they smoke, deadly tobacco poisons are shared with their baby. It's critical for pregnant women to get the help they need to quit, for their own health and for the safety of their baby during and after pregnancy. In 2018, 28% of South Dakota mothers smoked 2 years before pregnancy and 10% smoked the last 3 months of pregnancy. About half of the women who quit smoking during pregnancy relapsed within 6 months of delivery. Toxins and chemicals in tobacco products can harm a baby in the womb. Quitting tobacco reduces risks such as lowers the risk of sudden infant death syndrome, lowers the risk of premature birth, lowers the risk of low birth weight, increases the airflow to baby, increases the chances a baby's lungs will work well, and less likely for a baby to have certain birth defects like cleft lip or cleft palate. Smoking before and during pregnancy can cause health problems for mothers too. Smoking makes it harder for a woman to get pregnant. Women who smoke during pregnancy are more likely to have a miscarriage. Smoking during pregnancy can cause the placenta to separate from the womb too early, causing bleeding, which is dangerous to both mother and baby. We also worry about second and third-hand smoke. Toxins and chemicals in tobacco products can harm a baby in the womb. Quitting tobacco reduces these risks. There's no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke, so parents can protect their families by making homes and cars smoke-free, asking people not to smoke around them or their children, making sure that their children's daycare center or school is smoke-free, choosing restaurants and other businesses that are smoke-free, teaching children to stay away from secondhand smoke. And third-hand smoke can also be toxic too, and many do not think of third-hand smoke. Third-hand smoke consists of particles and gases that cling to a smoker's hair and clothing. It contains heavy metals, carcinogens, and even radioactive materials. Even after secondhand smoke has completely cleared, the residue remains. This residue sticks to furniture, carpets, curtains, blankets, stuffed toys, walls, and every other surface in a house or a car. Babies and young children can get this on their hands and clothes and then ingest, especially if they're crawling or playing on the floor. Behavioral health is another one of our priority populations. Nearly half of all South Dakota quitline callers have reported having a mental health and/or a substance use disorder, which contributes to a higher rate of disease and mortality rate within this population. Current research shows that people have a better outcome for quitting tobacco and substance use if treated at the same time. Quitting tobacco should be part of a larger approach to mental health treatment and wellness. Nationally, nearly 1 in 4 adults have some sort of mental health condition or substance use disorder. And these adults consume almost 40% of all cigarettes smoked by adults. Nationally, 63.5% of adult cigarette users reported co-use of alcohol in 2016 compared to 52.8% adult non-smokers. Tobacco use contributes to high rates of disease and mortality also for this population. People with mental illness or substance use disorders die about 5 years earlier than those without these disorders. Many of these deaths are caused by smoking cigarettes. Smoking causes more deaths among clients in substance abuse treatment than the alcohol or drug that brings them to treatment. Mental health and substance abuse clients may have more than one risk factor. They have lower levels of education, tobacco use is part of their social norm, increased exposure to secondhand smoke, unaware of services available to help them quit, have experienced housing and food insecurity, multiple chronic diseases such as mental illness, high blood pressure, substance abuse, and others. They have a greater likelihood of violence, failure to respond to treatment, and a higher risk of illness, incarceration, and death if they have co-occurring disorders. They have multiple risk factors that can also make it difficult for them to quit. Individuals living with a mental health disorder are sensitive to the effects of alcohol and other drugs. In some cases, a person diagnosed with mental health disorder uses drugs to self-medicate or manage certain symptoms. Even if it provides temporary relief, self-medication is counterproductive in the long run. Hazardous drinking also leads to a greater difficulty in quitting cigarettes and increased relapses. And our last priority population is low socioeconomic status. Socioeconomic status is the single greatest predictor of tobacco use. Medicaid clients in South Dakotans with lower incomes and lower education levels use tobacco at higher rates than the general population. They're even at a higher risk because the tobacco industry increases advertising in low-income areas. Medicaid clients are strongly encouraged to talk with their healthcare providers about free services they can receive. Healthcare providers can identify chronic conditions, explain how their tobacco use worsens those conditions, and refer them to resources to help them quit. The Medicaid population smoking prevalence is 43.3% versus the overall state rate of 19%. Medicaid enrollees are about twice as likely as the general US population to smoke tobacco. 32% of people in the program identify themselves as smokers. People living below the poverty level are more likely to smoke than those living at it or above the poverty level. High use rates increase smoking-related disease, which are major contributors to increasing Medicaid costs. Individuals with less than a high school education have a higher incidence of lung cancer and those with a college education. Individuals with a family income of less than $12,500 a year have a higher chance of lung cancer than families with incomes of $50,000 or more. Multiple factors contribute to Medicaid enrollees being about 2 times more likely than the general population to be smokers. Low socioeconomic status creates stress. There's a strong relationship between commercial tobacco use, depression, anxiety, and stress. The tobacco industry promotes it as a quick way to relieve tension and stress. Tobacco retailers are located in low-income communities, which means that they're being targeted by these big companies. Marketing in retail environments, including in-store advertising, discounts, and product displays behind checkout counters, is the tobacco industry's main marketing channel. Medicaid clients likely to have more than one risk factor as well, such as lower levels of education, increased exposure to secondhand smoke, unaware of services to help them quit, experience housing and food insecurity, and multiple chronic conditions. There is one more population I would like to call out. They are not one of our priority populations, but many kind of do not consider the smokeless tobacco user anymore, but in rural states such as South Dakota, it is heavily prevalent. Smokeless tobacco products include spit tobacco, chew, chaw, plug, snuff, snus, pinch, dip, or dissolvables. Many smokeless tobacco users think that these products are less harmful than smoking or even harmless. But smokeless tobacco products are as dangerous, and using them can result in serious health consequences. Approximately 5.3% of South Dakota adults use chewing tobacco. 26.9% of South Dakota high school students believe smokeless tobacco is safer than cigarettes. 2.1% of South Dakota middle school students use smokeless tobacco versus the national average at 1.8%. Because smokeless tobacco contains nicotine, users can become addicted just as one can with cigarettes. Smokeless tobacco is often used constantly, exposing users to high levels of nicotine throughout the day, resulting in a high level of dependence. Smokeless tobacco users absorb 2 to 3 times the amount of addictive nicotine as those who smoke cigarettes. Dipping 8 to 10 times a day can bring as much nicotine into the body as smoking 30 to 40 cigarettes. The 5 major US smokeless tobacco manufacturers spent $658.5 million on smokeless tobacco advertising and promotion in 2018. Ads for smokeless tobacco depict rugged images of cowboys, hunters, and race car drivers, and are placed in media and retail outlets, most likely to reach our rural audiences here in South Dakota. Rates of spit tobacco used by South Dakotans are highest among men, American Indians, and farming, ranching, and rodeo/cowboy men and women. Although flavorings are not allowed in cigarettes, the tobacco industry can add sweeteners and flavorings to smokeless tobacco, which makes them more appealing to many people. Tobacco companies regularly introduce new varieties of smokeless products like snus that can lead to an increased level of dual use and increased health risk. The single greatest risk factor for oral cancer is tobacco. Oral lesions that appear as white patches on the cheeks and gums or tongue are commonly found in smokeless tobacco users. So here is our state plan for the 2020 to 2025 tobacco state plan for South Dakota. The South Dakota Tobacco Control State Plan is the result of a collaboration with the South Dakota Department of Health and national, state, and local partners. The Department of Health, its partners, and stakeholders work to diminish the devastating impact of tobacco use, focusing in 4 goal areas, which is to prevent tobacco use among youth and young adults, promote quitting in all types of tobacco use, eliminate all types of exposure to tobacco use, and strive to achieve health equity in tobacco control. This 5-year plan gives us a framework to reduce the burden of tobacco use in South Dakota. It will take dedicated and collaborative efforts among communities, schools, workplaces, tribes, healthcare settings, and many other partnerships. But together, we can create a safer, healthier South Dakota. Our vision is all South Dakotans will enjoy healthy lives free from the harms of tobacco. And our mission is to enhance the quality of life for all South Dakotans through prevention and reduction of tobacco use and exposure. And you'll see that our list of priority populations that I just talked about, which includes our American Indians, people with behavioral health conditions, people of low socioeconomic status, pregnant and postpartum women, and youth and young adults. There are 4 goals to prevent tobacco use among youth and adults, promote quitting of all tobacco products, eliminate all types of exposure to tobacco use, and strive to achieve health equity and tobacco control. So I'm going to just summarize each goal. Goal 1, which is Youth Tobacco Initiative. We'd like to decrease the youth in grades 6 through 8 who have ever tried cigarettes and e-cigarettes. We'd also like to decrease youth in grades 9 through 12 who have ever tried cigarettes or e-cigarettes, and to decrease young adults ages 18 to 27 who smoke cigarettes and use e-cigarettes. We plan to use strategies such as educating our partners, decision makers, and the public about tobacco marketing and the tactics that it has targeted youth. Adopt comprehensive 24/7 tobacco-free buildings and grounds policies at all educational institutes, and to advance evidence-based policies, systems, and environmental changes that discourage tobacco use among youth and young adults. Our goal area 2, which is tobacco cessation, is to decrease the percentage of adults who use tobacco, increase the number of enrollments to the South Dakota Quit Line, decrease the percentage of pregnant women who smoke, decrease youth of all grades who currently use tobacco products. And our program works towards these objectives by working with healthcare facilities to implement and promote cessation and tobacco-free facilities, promote interventions that support cessation in community settings such as schools and workplaces, and enhance existing cessation services to include cessation of emerging products to leverage new technology. Our goal area 3 is tobacco exposure. We'd like to decrease the percentage of youth from grades 6 through 12 who are in the same room or a car as someone who is smoking, increase the percentage of adults who report smoking is not allowed anywhere in their homes, and increase the number of tobacco-free park policies. We will advocate for smoke and e-cigarette-free housing, advocate for tobacco-free parks, recreational areas, and rodeo grounds, and advocate for tobacco-free workplaces. And our last goal is health equity. We'd like to decrease the percentage of Native American youth who have ever used e-cigarettes, decrease the percentage of Native American adults who currently use tobacco, increase the number of tribes with comprehensive smoke-free air policies, decrease the percentage of Medicaid recipients who use tobacco, and decrease the percentage of adults with behavioral health conditions who use tobacco. We will accomplish these objectives by using the Tribal Tobacco Advocacy Toolkit, enhance reach of cessation services to priority populations, implement approaches that promote cessation at behavioral health facilities, and educate partners, organizations that serve priority populations, and the public about the tobacco-related disparities. You can find a copy of our tobacco state plan on our Be Free website or the Department of Health website. If you'd like a printed one, please feel free to reach out to me and I will gladly send you a hard copy. So what do we do to achieve our health or our state plan health goals and control commercial tobacco usage? The South Dakota Tobacco Control Program has a lot of efforts in place. We do offer tobacco funding grants within our program, so I would like to just go over a few of these. One of our grants is the Tobacco Disparities Grant, which promotes long-term change aimed at reducing disparate tobacco use among the following South Dakota tobacco control priority populations, which again is the youth and young adults, American Indian, pregnant and postpartum women, people of low SES, and people with behavioral health conditions. Another one of our grants that we offer is the Community School Partnership Grant, which links school and community tobacco prevention and control efforts in order to achieve maximum impact. Partnership efforts must be led by both community and school representatives and must implement activities that impact both local, school districts, and the community at large. We also have a mini grant through our Chun-Li Coalition partner. Please disregard the date. I was informed this morning that that date will probably be pushed back a week. So if you are interested, please reach out to me and I'll get you the new date once it is set in the next couple of days. Missouri Breaks Research and the Chun-Li Coalition of Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe request applications for tobacco mini grants. The funding opportunity supports tobacco events and activities for Native American Indian populations in South Dakota. Anything found on the Chun-Li Coalition's Tribal Tobacco Advocacy Toolkit is eligible for funding. So some of the ideas for this mini grant is to build a tobacco coalition, collect and share data, develop and promote tobacco media campaign, plan and host a tobacco event, implement a secondhand smoke policy. And then these grants are also reserved for federally recognized tribes located in South Dakota, private businesses, schools, and organizations serving American Indian populations in South Dakota, individuals intending to serve American Indian populations in South Dakota. So if you are interested in that, please reach out to me and I will be happy to share the new date once it is set. To help our grantees do their work and execute their activities, we have tobacco prevention coordinators located throughout the state. Tobacco prevention coordinates are South Dakota tobacco's prevention experts. They provide specialized support to organizations or community work. Coordinators can assist in a variety of ways. They can communicate our state plan and key data. They can provide technical assistance for grantees and coalitions and partners, present health education and promotion programs like training, workshops, conferences, and school and community presentations. They can share media materials that educate about the dangers of tobacco use, provide support in adopting voluntary smoke and tobacco-free policies at the local level, which is multi-unit housing, schools, parks, and buildings and grounds. Another activity that our coordinators help with is the point of sale project. This is a project that works with youth to show them how tobacco companies advertise in convenience stores. This means where the products are located, such as candy at eye level for youth and with fun eye-catching colors. We also look at how many convenience stores are located around schools or where a business that is heavily youth focused on, and how many of those convenience stores offer tobacco. We also offer curriculum such as Tattoo, which is Teens Against Tobacco Use, Catch My Breath, and many others. We help educate the community and schools on the harmful effects of tobacco and vaping, and we provide trainings to anyone from in schools, teachers, and facilities on different topics such as vaping, the South Dakota Quit Line, our work with behavioral health facilities, and even our work within community jails. The South Dakota Tobacco Control Program's goal is to reduce tobacco, nicotine use, and tobacco-related disease. We work with partners and programs statewide to educate and raise awareness related to prevention strategies and cessation services. Branding plays a key role in reaching specific audiences. The South Dakota Quit Line is our flagship service for cessation. Rethink It is our prevention-focused brand, and Find Your Power was developed specifically for Native Americans in South Dakota. Counter-marketing campaigns are key to generate awareness of tobacco cessation resources and motivate the public to quit. Media has the opportunity to change attitudes and behaviors of tobacco and vape users, educate non-users, and counter tobacco industry marketing dollars. All these brands are currently being redeveloped hopefully they will be done by January 1st of 2023. So currently we have the Be Free Tobacco. This brand helps coalitions with resources to do prevention work. There are toolkits, media help, and information help grantees succeed in their tobacco control goals. We have the Rethink It Tobacco. which is a youth-based brand that specifically reaches out to youth with fun, colorful ads to get their attention and show them the harmful effects of tobacco use, including vaping. We have the South Dakota Quit line. It provides information on cessation, the products and services that we offer for all South Dakotans aged 13 and older, and also ways for family members or friends to help their loved ones who are tobacco users. And again, we have our Find Your Power, which is specific for Native Americans. This brand also teaches many about traditional versus commercial tobacco. Here are some examples of different brands that we currently use. This is just a few. There is a lot of tobacco resources out there for printed materials that is all free for your use. If you are interested in ordering of that, you can find that on our DOH catalog. Again, if there's something you do not see that you are wanting, our program always takes requests. We are always looking for information that we can give out. This is a new campaign. E-cigarette use among teens is skyrocketing. The U.S. Surgeon General has declared a nationwide vape epidemic, and South Dakota teens are at a serious risk for nicotine dependence. In 2019, 1 in 4 high schoolers and 1 in 16 middle schoolers in South Dakota regularly used e-cigarettes. Half of all South Dakota high school kids have tried an e-cigarette at least once. It's likely these numbers will continue to rise more as national and state data is released and e-cigarette manufacturers develop sneakier tactics for targeting youth. E-cigarettes are now the most commonly used tobacco product among youth in the United States. Many of the kids who are using e-cigarettes will now become tomorrow's cigarette smokers because most tobacco use starts during adolescence. Nicotine changes the way young brains learn skills and build habits. Because developing brains form connections quickly, adolescents can get addicted to nicotine alarmingly fast. This habit can also make the brain more susceptible to addiction like alcohol or drugs. E-cigarette manufacturers have purposely made their devices small and discreet. It's easy for teens to hide them in their sleeves, pockets, book bags at school. And their sneakiness doesn't stop at disguising these devices. Vape companies disguise the truth too. They target kids with ads that make vaping look cool and fun. They downplay the high level of nicotine in their products and potential for addiction. They emphasize freedom, community, and suggest vaping as a casual social activity. Unlike nicotine replacement therapy products that are designed to help people step down and quit, e-cigarette companies want customers. They don't want you to quit. Vaping is especially harmful to kids. The brain keeps developing until the age of 25. Using nicotine in any form hurts that part of the brain controlling impulse control, attention, learning, and memory. This damage is irreversible for children's brains. Teens who use e-cigarettes are 4 times more likely to start smoking, which causes even more lifelong health problems. It's a common myth that the cloud produced by vaping is just harmless water vapor. It isn't. E-cigarette aerosols can contain nicotine, toxins, and cancer-causing chemicals. One study discovered that vaping aerosols can have equal to or even higher concentrations of these dangerous particles than cigarette smoke. The liquid in vapes is deadly. Small children and pets have died from accidentally consuming e-cigarette liquid. The chemicals in e-liquids can be absorbed through the skin too. Kids and pets don't have to ingest it. Just touching it can be very dangerous. Vape companies played down how much nicotine is actually in their devices. In 1 Juul pod, it equals 20 cigarettes worth of nicotine. And some manufacturers have even included nicotine salts in their e-liquids, which increases the rate at the amount of nicotine delivered. Nicotine can cause damage in adolescents' abilities to cope with stress. Researchers have found that nicotine dependence is associated with anxiety, depression, and even suicidal tendencies. Social media influencers are at work too, whether intentional or not. When kids repeatedly see TikTok or Instagram personalities vaping, e-cigarettes use is normalized. Combine these parasocial relationships with peer groups that statistically is no stranger to e-cigarettes, and you've got a youth population with an inaccurate and desensitized understanding of vaping's real risk. The South Dakota Tobacco Control Team identified that we need to help South Dakota youth from this epidemic. We did surveys and gathered a lot of data of the thoughts from youth, teachers, school administration, and parents. What we learned was alarming. We found out that there were second graders in South Dakota vaping. You heard me right, second graders. Second graders vaping is so concerning. We decided to create a new campaign that would educate our youth. Many campaigns are focused for older youth of 6th grade and higher, but we didn't have much for elementary age youth. We created the Disposables, which was just released on Friday, October 14th, 2022. This is a new way to educate younger youth on the harmful effects of vaping. Through studies, we know that youth do not want to just listen to educational pieces, but they need something fun and engaging. Our new campaign shows the gross and horrible side effects one receives from vaping. We are also currently working on developing printed materials to hand out to schools with some swag items so your youth can start recognizing this name. We do have a microsite up that houses information on vaping, and we are hoping that youth like the new direction we are going. I will drop the link for both our video and the link for the microsite so you can see that information on our new campaign here. So this is an overview of our priority population, state plan, media brands, and how the overall goals of the tobacco control program. Let me know if you have any questions. My email is right here on this last slide. If you have any further questions, concerns, or if you are needing additional information or trainings.
Thank you so much, Sierra. There's so much happening in your department, and it's exciting to see how you're able to adapt and try to reach those audiences and those kids to try to share that message of the dangers of smoking and vaping. And I know the Quitline has a lot of great resources, and as Sierra said earlier, we're going to be featuring them on our next best practice briefs next week. So we have come to the end of our session for now. If you have any questions for Sierra, she is going to be providing her contact information. I'm putting into the chat also the link to the best practice briefs page, which will have the recording, the handout, and Sierra's contact information, so you can reach her there as well. And you can always reach out to me also. Please take a minute before you leave to complete our evaluation. I'll put that again into the chat for you as well. We appreciate your feedback on the topics that we present to you, and encourage you to check out the rest of this best practice brief series. So with that, I'll close out our time together. Thank you so much again, Sierra, for your time, and everybody enjoy your day.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.